There used to be an old saying, lock up your daughters. Well, in Australia now, with the rise of left-wing demonisation of men, we need to lock up our sons. Because quite frankly, if you're a young Australian male going through the university system, you're open to wholesale demonisation. Believe it or not, there's an American documentary, totally discredited, called The Hunting Ground, which has been screened at more than 25 Australian universities. This thing is a gross over-representation, a gross misrepresentation of what's happened with sexual assault at American universities. The hunting ground is so bad, it's been described by 19 Harvard law professors as propaganda, as one-sided, as biased. And these aren't conservative or libertarian law professors. They include Charles Ogletree, who was a mentor to Barack Obama, and the feminist icon Nancy Gertner. So you've got 19 Harvard law professors condemning the hunting ground. I mean, it takes a lot to be condemned by a group like that as propaganda, but that's what's happened. So the movie, unfortunately, is being screened in Australian universities, part of the demonisation of young male students, making out they're all sexual predators. That's not the case. And even worse than that, the hunting ground's been screened by the ABC, the Australian national broadcaster, and on top of that, the hunting ground is set up, this propaganda unit has set up in Australia its own franchise and contributed $150,000 to the Human Rights Commission for them to run an inquiry, a bodgy, doctored inquiry into sexual assault in our universities system. And Australia's university sector, Universities Australia, has contributed $1 million. So you've got the Human Rights Commission accepting money from a propaganda unit that's come to Australia. You've got Universities Australia fouling their own nest. Effectively, they're going to destroy their own reputation by putting in $1 million of their money for more propaganda. How do we know that the Human Rights Inquiry and Survey will be propaganda? Well, Gillian Triggs, the notorious head of the Human Rights Commission, last year described an NUS, Women's Department survey as good and important work. I've had a look at that National Union of Students survey, and it wasn't representative. It, of course, found that it reckons that sexual assault and harassment in universities is rampant against women. 50% of the students surveyed described themselves as queer. 10% said they were gender diverse. So you've got 60% cohort in the survey showing it was all bodged up. It was completely unrepresentative of the student body. 50% queer, 10% saying they're gender diverse, whatever that means. And you know what the main problem they found, this so-called epidemic of sexual harassment in higher education in Australia? The main problem they found was men staring at women. That's right, staring has been reclassified as a form of sexual harassment according to these lunatics. Now, I mean, how can it be? How can they say the good old Australian practice of a man admiring an attractive woman and vice versa, women looking at men, that happens too. Staring is not a form of sexual harassment. This is propaganda. This is the ABC, the Human Rights Commission, the university sector and the hunting ground wanting to believe there's an epidemic of sexual harassment, wanting to believe your average male university student is a sexual predator. Now, we've got to stop this stuff. What sort of nation destroys the reputation of its best and brightest young men this way? It's unfair on them, it's propaganda, it's ridiculous, and we're going to be campaigning against it here at Rebel Australia. Support us 100%. So if you like this video, please share it on all your social media and support all our Rebel Australia campaigns. Sign up at marklathamsoutsiders.com.